من دوني وهم لكم عدو بئس للظالمين بدلا ما أشهدتهم خلق السماوات والأرض ولا خلق أنفسهم وما كنت متخذ المضلين عضدا ويوم يقول نادوا شركائي الذين زعمتم فدعوهم فلم يستجيبوا لهم وجعلنا بينهم موبقا ورأى المجرمون النار فظنوا أنهم مواقعوها ولم يجدوا عنها مصرفا ولقد صرفنا في هذا القرآن للناس من كل مثل وكان الإنسان أكثر شيء جدلا وما منع الناس أن يؤمنوا إذ جاءهم الهدى ويستغفروا ربهم إلا أن تأتيهم سنة الأولين أو يأتيهم العذاب قبلا وما منع الناس أن يؤمنوا إذ جاءهم الهدى ويستغفروا ربهم إلا أن تأتيهم سنة الأولين أو يأتيهم العذاب قبلا وما نرسل المرسلين إلا مبشرين ومنذرين ويجادل الذين كفروا بالباطل ليدحضوا به الحق واتخذوا آياتي وما أنذروا هزوا.
My dear friends, welcome to my program. I'm going to establish a new program called Ad-hoc Ranting. Ad-hoc Ranting. Now that's coined and that's registered. It's a trademark now. Ad-hoc Ranting by OSA, the Syrian Gavion. So this is actually the second video. I am by the way, I was listening to Quran by a Kurdish man, Ra'ad al-Kurdi. Oh man, you know what? 2.5 minutes. You could clearly, I mean, for those who don't connect with it, like I do, for example, and many others do, right? While he's reciting with that beautiful voice, you know, and flowing like as if angels are reading and singing, right? You know, I could clearly feel something in my brain, you know, expanding or waking up, or it rearranges the brain, man. I mean, I swear by Allah, something about Arabic language. Arabic language is so perfect of a machine, and so sophisticated and so artistic and so musical and so, you know, it came to us from above, right, from the other world. Let's put it this way. So basically it influences the brain. If you consider the brain the hardware of the computer, then Arabic language is the kernel, and the Quran in particular. Okay, well, this is not a religious sermon or lecture. This is Ad-hoc Ranting by yours truly, Osama. Yeah. So continuing from where I left off the other day about Ad-hoc Ranting, if you all folks, wherever you are, notice there is always, wherever I went to, whether I was in Syria when I was young or later, or whether I was in Saudi in the early 90s, you know, I went, did some work there. Not that I became a millionaire or anything else. I gave a lot and then I got nothing in return. Why? Because I am a Muslim. You know, those Muslims, yeah, they're, you know, they're not, according to, what's his name? Nichols, or not Nichols? Nicholson, the golfer, you know, they're scary motherfuckers, right? We're not scary, I swear to God. We're very friendly folks, and we're predictable too. You know, that's what's good about us. You know, we Arabs, we're predictable. We don't have layered Shrek mentality, you know. Okay, so there's a blitz wherever I went. I noticed there is a blitz. You know, I went to Europe, I came here, and I read here and there, and some of it I really watched on TV and so on. There's always that directed blitz, psychologically geared, psychologically designed, psychologically woven blitz that is often the case, deals with, it tries to, design to influence the unconscious, right? Now, unconscious was thought of, and basically the Western name was coined as by Carl Gustav Jung. That's a Swiss psychiatrist, psychologist, but he's not the pioneer of it. Within the heart of Islam, you know, the Quran in particular, and then the traditions of the Prophet, and then the knowledge and scientists, they knew of it. The only difference is they called it ruh, or spirit. You know, like we are made of two things, spirit and body. The body perishes basically, but the spirit is from Allah, from God. That doesn't perish. And supposedly when we die, it lifts off. And then how? He never told us. He didn't tell us, right? But he did say how long it takes, right? In the Quran, like he said 50,000 years and then 1,000 years. I mean, think of it. A man, a literate man in the heart of Arabia 1,450 years ago, talking about space and universe as if he was living in like top engineer in NASA today. No, more so. I mean, he's giving you numbers. Who would, in their right mind, think of 50,000 years a day, travel of 50,000 years Earth time in space? 1,450 years ago, a literate man who was, when he was young, he was partially held a job as a shepherd. Just think about it. It's mind-boggling, you know. The only other possibility is that Quran was written in 1960 something when NASA was established, or before that, right? I don't know. Anyways, but that's not possible, right? That's not possible. So the psychological blitz is this. It goes here in the US. It is, and it's different. It's got different texture to it, or different construct to it, whether here in the US or in Europe or anywhere else, in Africa, and among the Muslims in particular. You know, it's got a lot of different parts to it. However, there is a commonality. You know, they all have one mutual purpose, is really to, and that's a fact, that is to really take man out of man's thinking and man's sophistication and civilization and family and a man, really, and making that man an animal, basic and simple. And it also, I noticed, whether it's on TV or in movies or even libraries, you know, movies in the libraries and so on, it promotes violence and drugs and sex and so on and so forth. And it's kind of strange, you know. There's no check on it. It's unchecked, meaningly, you know, if you have an authority in a country, and we all do, of course, now every every part in the world has a government to it, except like the Antarctica, and then that falls under what, UN or something of the sort. As to why the authorities do not put these things in check, I do not know. I remember one time I was in a library ways back, and there's this. I was on the computer, right, and this African American boy of, teenage boy, I don't know, 12, 13, and in the library, the computer and the internet is not controlled, meaning it's not. No other sites are blocked, right? I do recall, and then I glimpsed over and I saw that boy looking at obscene pictures, porn pictures, right, and so on. And I was taken aback. Why is this in the library, and why is this boy watching this stuff? He should be paying attention to other things, like because being preoccupied with pleasures or lust and so on and so forth kills the ability to think about other things like math or hard work or future and so on and so forth. Basic and simple, that's a datum. It's a datum, right? A delimiter between animalization and spirituality, where man becomes something of a prodigy or learned or faithful and law-abiding citizen and so on and so forth, and or becomes basically an animal who hunts to eat and it doesn't matter how things come, wealth or comfort or luxuries, so long they come. And sometimes if the method is morbid and dramatic and like murderous or bloody, it just doesn't matter anymore. Like we humans are between two realms, really, and the width between them, the chasm between good and evil in us is really a hair width. It's probably less than that. You can fall this way, or you can fall this way into evil, right? All this like blitz of drugs and lust and so on and so forth, or you have to climb hard and with efforts into good. Good just. Evil is easy to fall into, right? First, we have aversion to it. We kind of want to hold back and, instead of falling into it. But then, once you fall into it, it's a matter of a second decision. Decision of 1 second. And once you've done it once, it's like a dominoes effect, right? But going into good, requires efforts, requires relinquishing illegitimate things and illegal things, and relinquishes some obscene and forbidden pleasures and so on and so forth. So it's not easy, like it's not easy to take that step. So the blitz in society, it's political, it's psychological, it's anything. And you go into, for example, a Muslim world like Arab country or Persia or Central Asia or Africa or Asia in general, and you'd see the blitz is geared toward women, like, because when women are formidable, meaningly they're chaste, they are faithful to their family and husbands and so on and so forth, breaking down the unmarried portion of society into lust is not easy, right? So what they do is try to break the woman and have the woman do bad things, right? And then once the woman do bad things, men are not as resisting to being chaste as women are, right? Like it's because they don't consider consequences of pregnancy, of things of the sort, right? It's not in their psyche. Men are different. At any rate, so the psychological effect of it is the psychological blitz is very widespread and so on. And there's also the political and religious one. Political and religious, they both come together, but religious in particular. Take, for example, you have been given a daily dose, a huge dose of this terrorism thing, you know, like terrorism, terrorist. I have yet to listen to a piece of news or a newscast or a talk show or an evangelist talking and so on, and or wherever you go. Those Muslim terrorism. It's mind, like it breaks down the mind at the ultimate of it. It basically demands someone, you know, you become very hateful of those Muslims. But what is the nature of that terrorism that they're talking about? There is, and briefly speaking, you know, I have another series I'm making about Islam itself and what it is really. There is Sunni Islam, which is the majority in the world, and that's Islam, really, the Prophet and his companions and the Quran and the traditions and jurisprudence and so on. And you know, these are the ones who made the modern world. You know, they brought about a lot of things, such as universities, such as justice systems, such as financial systems, such as math, calculus, you name it. You know, they basically made this world. Now you may disagree with that. No, not so fast. I assure you, I know what I'm talking about. And I can prove it with very minimal criticism and evidence. I don't need to go into details. But nonetheless, the point and case in point is this makes you hate those Muslims and Arabs. And if you go to, say, Iraq or Syria or anywhere else, you begin to whack people right and left, regardless what it is, because you're brainwashed now. Your unconscious is locked and brainwashed, and because of all this blitz here in the media and religious institutions and so on and so forth, and you go there thinking that you're ridding the world, trying to get rid of those horror people that call Sunni Muslims and so on. And now, how do you get that? They invent those who want to send you there and to kill and maim and so on and so forth. They invent organizations, terror organizations such as ISIS, such as Muslim Brotherhood, such as Qaeda, and so on and so forth. They invent those, and then they make them commit terror acts. And sometimes they're not even linked. You know, they commit a terror act here, and they say, oh, it's ISIS or it's Qaeda and so on and so forth. And you, of course, you don't question the situation, you know, what happened here. But here's the fact about it. All these organizations that you hear of, number one, they're symbolic. They're not really many. Like, for example, in Syria, there is like fighting machine in Sunni fighting people who really never leave Syria. And they were at one point, they tried to like rid themselves of this government, which is similar to Stalinist government and Stalinist dictatorship and or Nazis or something like that. And they went out in demonstrations, and when demonstrations began to be killed, you know, demonstrators began to be killed by that regime, which is a minority, right? Eventually the army defected, and now all those people who were fighting in the cities and so on, they're Sunnis and they're locals. They never left really the country, and they died in mass and so on. They make you think they're ISIS. They're not ISIS, really. For example, in Aleppo, there is no ISIS. In Mosul, in Iraq, there is no ISIS, really. It's just local people. And that's their country. Guess what? You know, like, you can curse them all you want. That's their country, you know. They've been there for thousands of years, and they're civilized people and want to continue, you know, decent living and so on and so forth. But no, some people don't like them. Now, all those terrorists and terror organization, including 9/11 here in New York, attacks on 9/11, terrorist attacks in 9/11, including the Orlando shooter, any terror act that took place in the West was carried out by a small minority in the Muslim world that is not Muslim but call themselves Muslims, and these are called Shiites and Alawites, and they have like Houthis and so on and so forth across the board. I'm gonna provide you with an evidence. In early 80s, the TWA, was it 80s? Probably 80s, was hijacked, and then it kept flying between Beirut and Algiers and back and forth until those fucks, Hezbollah, got what they want, right? And they killed some 500 US Marines who were peacekeepers in Lebanon, and they took hostages such as Thierry Wade, such as so and so on, and they executed Colonel Higgins, who lost his way in Lebanon. He was like a colonel in the U.S. Army, along with a peacekeeping force, and then he lost his way, and then came across a Hezbollah checkpoint, and basically they executed him right there and then because he was an American, right? Not that when not too long ago, those Sunnis, not Qaeda, not ISIS, came into Lebanon because they want to eradicate that terrorist organization because it was committing atrocities in Syria and so on and so forth. Believe it or not, they sent forces, US sent forces to protect them. And that's a fact that the history will not overlook. But nonetheless, back to our main subject, the blitz. So there's a blitz, psychological blitz, meaningly don't take anything at face value. For example, the psychological blitz or psychological, for example, they put your psychology to sleep against something. For example, when the Soviet Union was destroyed in Afghanistan, the polity or the regimen that rules the Soviet Union was still there. It didn't go away. And they made your mind sleep in the West. They made your mind sleep to that danger, right? Like those people after they fell down. If it's a battle, you really have to clean that place up, right? Otherwise, they're going to be resurrected again. They have what? They have nuclear weapons, and they have the know-how to manufacture tanks, and in the hands of communists, it's really weapons of terror, right? Ballistic missiles and so on and so forth. Not just that, they made you in the West revive that place as having lost communism or shed its communism and this dark past of communism, and made you became democratic, which is anything but real. Now you're seeing the effect of that, right? Yeah. They also make your mind and your soul and your unconscious sleep about communism and Lenin and Stalin. This was early last century, and it generated horror upon the world, but mainly in Russia and in Central Asia and so on. Oh, they murdered millions of innocent people and so on and so forth. And they have something called gulags, right? But notice how history really never mentions them and talks only about atrocities of the media and so on. Only pushes forward the Nazism. Nazism with all its horrors, right? Came after communism. But look at how the world now focuses on Nazism and then forgets that horror, which is probably 10 times as bad, right? That happened in the East, like in Moscow, which is really, say, Russia is a European country, right? Notice how it's just being put on the back burner or put to sleep, or nobody even talks about it anymore. Yet, they're banging your ears and your mind and your soul and your psyche and your unconscious with Nazism, which is as bad, right? Which is as bad as communism. In its own right, it destroyed and killed Germans, it destroyed Germany, and it turns out that the two movements are really one and the same, right? There's some common roots to them, like the genesis of it or the origin of it is really from a common root. But notice how the focus is only on Nazism, even though, like I said earlier just now, communism is probably as 10 times as bad or even worse, and came before. It was earlier in that last century. So as you can see, folks, whatever the atmosphere around you, the intake atmosphere, or the atmosphere that you intake that puts inputs into your mind and soul and psyche and conscious and so on and so on, no matter what it is, whether it is religion, or whether it's a church, whether it is a radio station, whether it is a movie, whether it's a news outlet, whether it's a media outlet, whether it's internet, whether it's materials you borrow from the library, it's all geared and designed and channeled and woven within a psychological spin zone meant to influence your mind the wrong way and drive you the wrong way. Basic and simple. The world is not what it is. You sit down here like I'm sitting down here. Internet. That's a verb. You go to Starbucks coffee or Pete's coffee or whatever coffee shop, or you go to the library or watch TV or listen to news or go to school or wherever it is. That atmosphere is now a certain brew of bad things that your mind is always doing intake, right? Like it or not, wherever we go, whoever we talk to, whatever we believe in, it's always, our mind is always ingesting things. It's like the mind is a black hole of ideas, right? This term just being coined here, just right now. I'm trying to find out a description for it. The mind is a black hole of ideas, of notions, of feelings, of impressions, of anything. The mind is constantly ingesting and doing things. Like we're black holes when it comes to that. So all that is now being influenced by negative things, by unreality, by unreality, by lies, by deceit, and for this point, this is it. But what I'm going to say is, I know pretty well who is now stirring this brew, if you will, and adding materials to it. For me, I no longer have any doubts to who it is that is behind all this. And that said, I can give you a hint. It is really that very same root that established Nazism and communism in the last century. Not just that, it also established something like Muslim Brotherhood, or it established the Iran's revolution, or it established now something called Qaeda and ISIS and so on. Believe it or not, it's that same root. You can take these words like diamonds, and sell them in the auction, and they'll bring you a lot of money, because that's how real is what I'm saying to you. Okay, on to number two point, another point. Okay, point. What is cryptocurrency? I have made like a couple of videos about cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency, in other words, is really the mother of all evil. If you don't believe in those negative utopias, or real utopias, negative, yes, but they're real, right? If you don't believe in those fictions, now is the time to believe that this cryptocurrency is as bad. Now, how bad is this? This is really bad. This is meant to take all your dollars, and which are really virtual, and it is meant to take all your dollars and give you something that is controllable per unit. Dollars are controlled in general. Cryptocurrency is controlled per unit. I'm going to see if I can play this for you. So what I'm playing here is, there was a series on TV the other day. No, it's been a while back. And Christians later talking to Rami Malek in a carousel, right? About this, they're going to tear down this virtual world. The virtual world here means dollars, right? And they want to bring cryptocurrency about, and this way they would wash away all this virtuality that is owned by other supposedly tyrants or whoever it is. Now, who owns these dollars is really me and you. How do we own them? We go to work and get paid, and we spend our money. Now, how is it virtual? Because it's really in the banks. does the bank have, like, for example, if all those customers, right, bank patrons or clients, come to that branch and say they want their money in cash, the bank doesn't have that cash, right? So it's all virtual, but it's a dollar. However, there is a problem for the establishment with that dollar. What is it? Is they can't change it, right? Even though it's virtual. For example, if a bank now begins to reduce your account or play with your money, as numbers, right? There's a problem, the entire population will rise up against them. Not just that, the entire society may collapse, as a matter of fact, because the American society or anywhere else, even though it is virtual dollars, it exists on dollars. In Europe, it's the euro. In Sweden, it's the krona. In Saudi, it's the rial. And here and there. So that currency, even though it's virtual, it's still the foundation of society, really, economically speaking. How do you go buy food if you don't have dollars? Whether it's if you pay cash, which is the better way, or if you use your card. But they realized, those who made it virtual in the first place, they realized the problem that they still cannot, while they're able to reduce the value of, say, a dollar, but when they reduce the value of a dollar, it's across the board, really. They're affected too. Two, they cannot remove it or ditch it altogether because they're gonna destroy the very society that they consider their own farm, right? Like the rancher basically taking all the food from the animals. What do you think is going to happen? The animals are going to die. Some animals are going to leave the farm, break out of the farm to find like grass to eat elsewhere. Cows won't milk anymore, and so on and so forth. So while the farmer or the rancher can introduce some bad stuff in the food, right? But it's across the board. He will eventually, even though the farmer controls the food, the fodder, if you will, for the animals, he's still bound by their health. However, in cryptocurrency, the control becomes very granular. So like I said, you have a dollar in your pocket, you go pay it. Nobody asks you what. They just have to look at the dollar and make sure that it's good. And that's that, right? Or if you go use a card, now the card may decline your own transaction, right? As an individual. And it happened before, there was like a certain bank I used to deal with, and I went to shopping and the card didn't work. And I called the bank right in the store, right? And they said, oh, they have computer problems. Sure enough, their systems were down and so on. And it happens. Not because it happens, it's because of bad maintenance in the data centers and so on. Now, like, they're all put in with duct tapes and so on. Not my business, not the point of this video, or this point, if you will. So now, the value of cryptocurrency is controlled like stocks, right? And stocks are owned by 20% of the people here in the United States, or even less, right? So that's cryptocurrency. Now, cryptocurrency has not been popular. And here's a fact, and that's a big fact. Has not been popular. Nobody is investing in the cryptocurrency, that Bitcoin, or which I call Buttcoin, and that's officially speaking and declared officially speaking, is the currency controlled by Israel, right? Period. No doubt about that. And nobody is using it, really. I mean, the usage of it is extremely limited. The usage of it is so, nobody, it's like I'm not the only one who's thinking that, right? But of course, I don't know, some economists know what I'm talking about. Perhaps they even know more. So how is this going up? Like, it goes up to $60,000 and so on a unit, and well, it's very simple, my friends. Starting with I think Obama and Trump and now Biden, they are, and Congress as well, your Graham and McConnell or whatever it is, and Pelosi and so on, they are supporting that money on your account, and every American out there. They issue executive orders that you don't know about in the White House and in the Congress and in the Senate, and appropriate bills, and they call it sometimes debt limit, right? They take hundreds of billions, if not trillions of that, and hand it over to who? You guessed it, Bitcoin or Bitcoin, and other coins as well, Ether, whatever, like, and so on. That money has been made to survive until there is a time when they convert the dollar into cryptocurrencies, and those cryptocurrencies are controlled by unknown entities here and there, right? Because you cannot make one cryptocurrency to be worldwide, it's like smaller, because the control of it or the generation of certificates or numbers of it is limited, right? But you can do another one, you can do a third one or fourth one. So as you can see, this has really, really bad state. Now, if bad taste, really, I mean, really bad future. So if you're a millionaire and then the bank converts your money into cryptocurrency, number one, you don't know who owns that currency, right? It's not the government. Two, you go to, if they decline your certificates or numbers, and they can do that on an individual basis, similar to declining your card, like your card, right? The authentication authority, right? Which, like, the authentication authority is really your bank when you use your card. If you have a balance, it says he has a balance, and then the computer at, say, whatever store, they talk to each other and the bank, and does first it verifies and validates, then it does the transfer, right there and then. It's all transmission of data and databases and so on. It's not really a mystery, right? Now on cryptocurrency is the same, but it's no banks, right? It's some entity somewhere, an exchange, and that exchange could close down and could deny your certificate, just like a card, right? But guess what? Who are you going to complain to, right? Now, if your bank caused you a problem, like, you can go and complain, and the bank will really have a problem, right? It happened to me before, some fuck lawyer whose last name is Cohen, right? On the side of my ex-Jewish wife, basically seized my account. I was almost homeless, right? How did they do it? They got an injunction from a judge, some relative of my ex-wife, Jewish ex-wife, right? He got like an injunction from him, and they seized my account, right? And they didn't even leave me anything, right? Basic and simple. So anyways, that said, they can do that to you, but now the bank or the exchange of that cryptocurrency is no longer a legal entity. So if they take your money, they take it without any problem, without any issue. They can do that on individual basis. They can do that on group basis. They can do that on country basis. Whatever it is, if you invested in bonds in the United States government, and the United States government now declares your bonds are as cryptocurrency, guess what? It could go up and down. It is definitely going to go downhill, right? And then all your money that you invested with the government disappears, right? Evaporates. Like if you pinprick a balloon, right? It just explodes, and guess what? The whole entire balloon becomes a very small lump of brown. But where is this money coming from for cryptocurrency to shore it up until it, something happens? Nothing's going to happen. The other day they were thinking about ditching all that, and then Blank Fine of that Goldman Sachs came and declared, no, it's happening. And then the government started chilling again, hundreds of billions on your accounts and mine, right? But I want to bring your attention to something else. That something else is really, if you remember Obamacare started up until this moment. Anybody uses Obamacare? I don't see anyone uses Obamacare and using Obamacare. But believe it or not, until now, since its establishment until now, it is subsidized by the government. Where does the money go? Nobody knows, right? Investors? Well, I think so, yeah. It started with $716 billion, not million, $billion, if you recall the debate between Mitt Romney and Obama, when he talked about the 716 billion and so on. And basically, some unknown entities, like plural entities, just take the money from the background through banks, through virtuality, and you don't know where it is, right? And your Trump put up a performance of farce, right? He and his Congress and so on and so forth, that he want to drop cryptocurrency. And guess what? John McCain, friend of his, vetoed it, right? And it's still going on. But the whole thing was an act, folks. It was a performance. if Trump, if anybody was successful in in shutting down Obamacare, Trump would have come to its rescue, and Trump paid it a lot of billions, right? It's that simple, folks, you know. So that's ranting point number 2 today on cryptocurrency, which is really Obamacare, which is really sucking up like trillions a year, and you don't know where these trillions are going and from whom and so on. Same thing for the stock markets. How do you think stock markets are going up when we know for a fact that 20% or even less own stocks, and many of those, actually few of those, I don't know how many, are basically penny stocks and so on and so forth. It's been said before, and I read that every 1,000 point on the stock market, that was years back, is $1 trillion. Folks, these investors don't give a shit about what happens in your country, whether it gets destroyed or anything of the sort. No. All they care about is that the money that's being stolen on daily basis keeps growing. How do they steal the money? Back again, national debt ceiling, shutting down the government and so on, all these ploys, and they issue executive orders, whether it's White House, whether it's Pelosi, whether it's McConnell, whether it's Graham and so on daily basis, folks, they are siphoning off trillions of dollars by executive orders that you don't hear about, and this money is forwarded to the stock market, to the investors. Not just here. Same thing is happening in Germany, same thing happening in China, same thing happening in South America, Middle East, here and there. Folks, they're burdening you with debt, right? And now guess what? If cryptocurrency comes, right, all of that is going to be erased, and they already have owned this money. What do they do with this money? It turns out that they're turning, and it's called the biggest transfer of wealth in the history of the world, right? Partially true, not 100% true. Basically now, if you were a rich man, say 50 years ago, you're no longer that. Your money has already been transferred to the investors, oligarchs, or whoever it is, you know, like they're oligarchs with the name Abramovich, you know, and so on, or Khan, you know, of the steel, Kahin, or Cohen, or, you know, those are investors. So that's what's happening, folks. Now there's another secret to it, is that because when Obama came about, he came into the White House and he said, and I quote, that when it came to the economy, I remember him. I'm not making this up about him. Now that little soul of skunk that called Obama, right? What he did in Syria and what he did elsewhere, supporting those regimes with telling them to use gas against the people and so on. Damn your soul, Obama, damn your body, and damn your soul. Anyways, he said, and I quote, he said, I didn't know things, he didn't know things were that bad, right? Of course, I knew things were bad. Why did things become bad? Because on daily basis, the government of the United States and everywhere we're siphoning off debts in trillions and chilling it out, giving it out to all those people in the investment world, right? So the country could no longer, and I described it back then as the cow. There's so much frenzy, the hyenas are attacking the cow and sucking its blood so bad that it's now literally the USA is skin and bone. If you compare United States to a cow, it's like literally now, it's because the blood suckers are like so crowded on it, and you can barely see the outline of the cow itself, right? And there's a frenzy going on, blood sucking and trillions. Remember Trump in one of his rallies, I think West Virginia or Virginia, you know, when he said people trillion at stake, that's the Russian Rabbi Trump. And he and now the cow is like literally skin and bone, there's no blood anymore, can't stand up on its own legs, and basically dying. Yet the frenzy has to stop, and there's no end of this frenzy inside, period. It's actually intensifying. People started portraying Obama as the savior. But savior of who? The country? No. He's the savior of the investment firm, because things now, they sucked up so much blood, and there are so many of them, right? And now notice the word, the new world, the new expression, super billionaires, right? Those super billionaires. How do you become super billionaire? Just think about it, right? Uh, Being a millionaire out of like given stocks, like you get $10, right? You as an investor from Russia, from Iran, from here, whatever, right? They take your $10 and in like 2 years time it changed into millions, right? Right, on back of US people, right? Now millionaire is frowned upon, you know. Who cares about millionaires anymore? The competition now is being super billionaire. So they stole so much now. It turns out that if you take so much out of the foundation and put it in the paint house, the building's gonna collapse. So basically, these guys, and there's no check in there among their ranks. There's no check for the malpractices. You know, everybody can malpractice, and the others are supposed to protect the practitioner. Malpractitioner. Okay, well, this is going too, right? So there's no check. Now, people wanted to, you know, like, how come there are only those few who have a penthouse in the top of the skyscraper? So they started stealing from the foundation, you know, like materials from the foundation, you know, concrete and columns and so on. And they now on the top of the skyscraper, there are quite few, have quite few penthouses, and the foundation is standing on one column or two, and it's swaying, right? Now, supposedly, Obama came to rescue the situation, and what he did is take every column below and, you know, build super billionaires up on top of the skyscraper, which is really the Earth, right? That's funny. And now the building is standing in the air. Similar, you know how you look at, if you recall, what's his name? Coyote, Y.E. Genius Coyote. You know, he only falls down if he looks down. Otherwise, he walks on the air, right? So now Obama came and started like, instead of like slowing down this like frenzy and so on, and trying to save the situation, the guy just freaking started stealing trillions, right? And giving it to his, of course, you know, his falashas and Mizrahis and Ashkenazis and Sephardi and they're all kind. And now, of course, you know, they're giving them money through, what is it, cryptocurrency, and a lot of them are siphoning off via Obamacare. And oh man, I mean, that's only few of the schemes, you know, like. So if you recall, there is a thief, I call him the thief of Illinois. This guy, Pritzker, Rabbi Pritzker. He's super billionaire, right? Or billionaire. How do you become billionaire? I never heard the guy owns manufacturing facilities or real estate or anything else. Oh, well, it came by way of Obama, right? Why? Oh, well, because Obama, turns out that Obama takes a share as well for doing what he did, right? He's promised a share. So he comes and visits him like a couple of months, I think, I don't know how long. Before he left office, he came and visited him here, and that's when they negotiated his cut. And the cut for Obama came by way of Netflix, and writing a book or whatever it is, the book that really nobody reads. And they gave him like millions of dollars up front for what? Guess what? Because that's his cut, you know. They calculate when he becomes president, that's your share, that's how I get commission, and so on and so forth. Now, Trump thought he negotiated bigger deal, you know. I think he was talking billions. And I heard some of the commentators on those like economy channels, you know, so stock market channels like CNBC or something like that. I heard them say, you know, like he was like refusing to leave. That the reason is because he's trying to guarantee his legacy, meaning his share, right? That's what it is, folks. That's what happens. What's happening in Washington, and all those guys are brothers of Hitler, are brothers of Stalin, are brothers of Putin now, and that's them, folks. And they're feeding you this. They're animalizing you on drugs and sex and violence and terrorism too, right? You know. So that's what it is, folks. You think when you see the stock market staying as it is. So now back to there is a point I was making. They ran into a problem now. Instead of trying to shore it up, you know, instead of the whole trying to stop and like try to build some foundation in the society and so on. What they tried to do is instead they got greedy, as soon as Obama and Trump and Biden are in the White House, and so on, and once they begin to rule more. So now, part of their theft of trillions a day is really to stop the collapse of that scheme, right? That they robbed the world of. If that collapse happen, and it will happen, or if it happens on its own, or if whatever it is, right? The world will never be the same anymore, folks. The collapse is big, right? Now, I said in the past, I think I'm the first one to say something like this, that those people, the students who are borrowing money from the government, right, government loans, to finish their school and so on, and the debt of those poor children is what, 1.2, 1.3 trillion? And this has like a long history. I propose that, these guys are the ones who are building the country, the future of the country, and paying taxes and so on and so forth, and the debt is being piled on them, whether by student loans or by siphoning off on their future for investors in stock market, right? I propose that these loans be scrapped, right? But no, they don't. Even though it's not even 1% of the theft that is happening on daily basis, or say whatever, right? That's going to investors. They will not let them go. No. Why? Because they're not investors. Now here's the deal. Where is some of that money that's being siphoned off from the government is going? Well, when you see new buildings, apartment buildings being erected near train stations and so on, this money just didn't come, folks. And this is not white. This is not white money or black money or Arab money or anything else. Oh no. This money, like some oligarch who basically swept the street in Moscow somewhere, now comes here and gets by way of Obama and Trump and Biden, and before them Bush, right, and Clinton too, gets like billions somehow, it gets right to his account, and he builds something like this, and now starts ranking people. Who pays for it? Guess what? Jesus. They gave you gods. Now this guy, this expression about everything's stolen, but they gave you gods, right? You can ask, I'll tell you who to go and confirm with. Mel Gibson. He said, and I quote, you say everything we got is stolen, but we gave you gods. See, ask him, he'll confirm what I said. Folks, things are not going well. And sometimes the frenzy. We had a proverb in Arabic I learned when I was young. Arabs saved a lot of proverbs, man. They're smart, intelligent people. That says, the wolf doesn't die and the sheep don't perish. Do you know what that means? Think about it. Have a nice day, my friend, and on to the next Ad-hoc Ranting. Welcome to my new program called Ad-hoc Ranting.